Welcome to Talkin' Bengals, your home for innovative insights into all things Bengals. Follow Talkin' Bengals on Facebook and Instagram at Talkin' Bengals or listen on your preferred podcast app. Now, let's start talking.
Hello and welcome into Talking Bengals. It feels like the season's already over, but we have one pointless bowl to go. So we're going to get into that. We're going to take a look back at the Chiefs game a tiny bit last week because it's just too painful to really want to go too far. But we'll get you some of the information there. We'll take a look ahead at what's going on with the Bengals against the Browns, which it really is the toilet bowl. I don't know why I say the pointless bowl. Nobody cares about this game. No matter what you say, nobody really cares that much about this game fan-wise. You want your team to win because everybody hates the Browns. If you want the Browns to make the playoffs or to win the Super Bowl and you're a Bengals fan, we got issues. But I'm just, pontificating here and going on and on at the beginning. Thank you for joining us on Talking Bengals. I'm joined by the three best co-hosts in the world, even though one's always half an hour to an hour late. So, Nick, how you doing?
Doing all right. WhoDey, I guess.
WhoDey-ish. Josh, how we doing?
Still WhoDey in this house for now.
And Burns, who's set up for his press conference with his undisclosed cola and his Zach Taylor hat. How you doing, Burns?
What day is it?
We don't know.
Okay.
Who's in the game?
Yeah, I think, Zach Taylor coach speak and most ridiculous press conference stuff. We'll get to that in a minute. But let's just go ahead and dive into the pain and misery that is going to be cheers and jeers this week. And let's see who wants to take it. We'll go with Josh. You go first. Chiefs game. Cheers and jeers.
Cheers. The cheers. I mean,
so enthusiastic.
The cheers are still kind of hard to find. I mean, the offense fell flat, but the cheers, I guess we can still look at Browning. Browning was effective. He had some really good passes, especially that Jamar Chase pass over top of the corner. That was a solid pass. Like, there was nobody that even had a chance to touch that ball except Jamar Chase. I would say it's probably the only cheer I have. Jeers are all over the place.
Pick one so you don't ruin it for everybody. Just one.
Yeah, coaching. Coaching was ill-prepared in every single aspect, but I'm not going to take all the coaching jeers from everybody else, so I'll just go ahead and pass it off to you, Hoop.
All right, we'll start off with the cheer. Trey Hendrickson, guy's a beast. He's tied for the lead for sack total. Let's get him, the sack championship of the season, especially over that dude from Pittsburgh. I don't want to say his name.
I think it's Douchebag Watt. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Dang it.
I didn't want to say his name. Anyways, let's make it just Trey Hendrickson at the lead. Trey Hendrickson, just all out player every game. You're going to at least get a sack from him, get a couple pressures at least. The jeers, Frank Pollard's line.
Pollard?
Frank Pollard needs Pollock, whatever. He needs to be fired. He needs to be fired. All right. Frank does. All right. We went out and we picked up an offensive line, right, to block for Burrow. All right. These guys played well everywhere else that they played. The common denominator is Frank. Right? He's obviously not done his job. He's obviously not very good at getting these guys to block the way they need to, pick up the blockers. You're what, 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and you go for it, and you don't even block up the inside blitzer. That's exactly where you're running the ball.
That one we're gonna get into a couple of those calls very specifically because they don't make any dang sense. But I get where you're coming from.
The blocking scheme was miserable. Why are you blocking? Why is one guy of all the guys blocking out when you know there's a guy who's coming right to your inside, right where the running back's going to go? You block the guy who has the most direct path. I mean, I only played in high school, kind of. Like,
Allegedly.
allegedly. I mean,
was on the
but
team.
seriously, yeah, I played it every once in a while, but still, I mean, geez, Pete's, everybody knows you block the guy with the most direct path. You don't go block the outside guy when you have the blitzer who's coming right there. You see it coming. Everybody saw it coming, and you didn't block the guy. Come on. Burnsy, what do you got?
Well, my jeer is going to be the officiating. The officiating was terrible across the board in multiple games, but it just, the fix was in, right? Like, I don't like to be, to say that about officiating, but like, come on. Is this betting? Like, are we trying to protect pockets here? Like, I don't know. So that's my jeer. My cheer. I don't know. I don't have one. It was rough.
Well, I will pick up the slack there. I do actually have a cheer this week. So my cheer is T. Higgins. And why? Because he had no reason he needed to come back in that game, and he did it for the team. Now, was he super productive? No, but if your hamstring's hurting, I don't expect you to be super productive. And when your quarterback is literally like screaming and running the other direction, because as soon as he snaps the ball, they're literally in his face, he didn't have to play. So, T. Higgins, you're my cheer this week. You're a great team player. You're a great Cincinnati Bengal. If you're not back next year, we have plenty of time to talk about the scenarios after the season, but if you're not back next year, we appreciate everything you've done for the organization, and you are a class act, my man. You're an absolute class act. And, oh, goodness, where do I even want to start with the jeers? I'm going to just do one because that's all what you all did.
Yes, Casey, just one.
Just one. Oh, my gosh. My jeer is definitely going to two people on one play, so I'm sorry if I'm cheating. Jermaine Pratt and Sam Hubbard. How in the heck do you not tackle scrawny Patrick Mahomes when two of you have him 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage? And like I said, Jermaine Pratt, like, I don't even know what he did there. It's like, forgot how to play football. And then, yes, I'll get you in a second, Burns. And then Sam Hubbard, you literally let him drag you over the first down line. When you have like 40 pounds, 50 pounds on him, you're a much bigger human being. Yes, he's sneaky, he's slippery, he's Patrick Mahomes. But two people, it'd be different if it was one-on-one. I'd give you a benefit of the doubt. But two people, all Pratt had to do was grab him so Hubbard could hit him. Burns, what's your rebuttal here?
I think they had AFC Championship game flashbacks. That's my rebuttal.
Oh, are you also
talking about not touching Patrick Mahomes because it's illegal in this league?
Oh, so like on his awesome Superman play where he thought he got the first down and the ref came over and gave him the first down, and then New York decided that's not a first down. I mean, and then he's over there complaining that it wasn't a first down. Like, come on, dude. You literally, everyone knows they can't touch you if you're within 3 yards of out of bounds. It must be really nice to play that way. What, Josh?
He's the biggest whiner in the NFL. Every time you see him, he's got a sour look on his face complaining to the the referees. He's the new Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he literally has a halo around him when he's anywhere near the sideline just blows my mind. So that was a bad call, but it got fixed. The intentional grounding, I've never liked Tony Romo. I've never wanted to support Tony Romo. But he literally is like, yeah, that's not intentional grounding. Talk to Gene. Yeah, that's not intentional grounding. So I'm guessing the white hat has money on the game or something like Zach was pointing out there, because like it was very late and it's too called. It would have been different if the side judge on the Mahomes like leaping thing, the guy standing right there, would have said, yeah, it's a first down, because he's right there. You can't. Where's the white hat at, guys? He's 5 to 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. How the heck would you see that? And then intentional grounding, quarterback got hit, number one. So who knows where the ball is going to go when the quarterback gets hit. Number two, Joe Mixon was right there. And there was literally a blatant intentional grounding by Mahomes earlier in the game where there was nobody there.
And then to top it all off, was it that play or the play right after it? You had the guy who lined up an entire helmet off sides that they didn't call. I mean, how do you miss that? You have one job. I mean, I'm not to bring in my family into it, but my father-in-law, who, let's just be honest, despises the Bengals because the organization has done nothing to promote a championship team until now. Look at, he's like, that's terrible. You have, like, you're the line judge. You literally have one job, is to make sure everybody lines up on sides.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there staring at it. You can't even see the ball because the guy's helmet is blocking the center's elbow. And you're saying you can't call that? I mean, come on. That would have resulted in a first down. Even Tony Romo pointed it out.
The officiating is bad, and that definitely played a role in the Bengals losing the game. But we're going to kind of go back to all the jeers here. We already talked about, why Pratt and Hubbard were – Pratt, I would cut him, to be honest with you. We'll get all offseason to talk about how much I'm mad at the linebacker corps. But we'll go back to Josh's. Okay, so the coaching. Let's take a look at that 4th and 1 play that Nick's talking about earlier. How in the heck do you have 5 guys inside the guard box? Like literally guard to guard, there's 5 defensive players, obviously in a 0 blitz. And you have 2 tight ends, like overbalanced line. And you don't think, I need to call a timeout. Because that's what Browning kind of passed the buck off later, like, I call the plays it's called. That's what I do. Well, there's a guy sitting in the box named Brian Callahan who's up there and look and can see everything. Timeout. They're doing a 0 blitz. We have 3 guys trying to stop 5 guys, and we're literally doing a handoff right up the gut. I mean, by the time Mixon got the ball, he was tackled. So somebody, I don't care who it is, heck, Joe Mixon turned around and be like, timeout, this looks terrible. I don't care who calls the timeout, but you knew that play wasn't going to work. And they ran it, all 4 times on that series right there, like that set? Why? It just blows my mind, but I'm going on and on. Somebody take the mic and continue to talk about this.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, that was I'm not mad about the play call. I'm not mad that they went for it on 4th down. Instead of just taking the points, I'm like, you know what? They have to go out, try to kick Kansas City in the mouth, make them feel like they can't come back, and try to, keep them down. But the blocking schemes, everything about that is just, it screams Frank Pollock is inept at his job. Didn't we get him from the Jets? Wasn't that his last stop for the Bengals?
The Cowboys.
Cowboys, Bengals, Jets, Bengals.
Yeah, I would say he went to the Jets when they won 2 games, I think, that season. Yeah, they were so good. Bengals were like, oh, yeah, we got to get Frank Pollock. He's great. The NFL loves him. No, he is inept at his job, and it shows. We have had the worst offensive line play for the past 4 years, even though we picked up the best offensive lineman available that we could possibly get. I mean, I wouldn't say the best, but for the group that they have, they should have a top, middle of the road offensive line, and they've got a bottom offensive line in the league.
All been healthy all year.
What'd you say?
They've all been healthy all season long.
I know. I mean, and last year, they were healthy the entire season until I think the 5th to last game, they lost 1 guy. And then they lost another guy. And then they ended up going into the postseason shorthanded. But the offensive line has been a train wreck. The defense, like I was telling Casey earlier today, I wouldn't blame Lou Anarumo too much for the defense because they're so young. It's hard to say that they're supposed to be good when you're playing with a lot of 1st and 2nd year players. They're still trying to figure out how to be quality NFL players. But the offensive line, they're all veterans at this point. The offense as a whole has been an absolute train wreck. I mean, we've got the best receiving core in the league. None of them can get open on a consistent basis. I don't buy it. That's schemes. The offensive coaching staff is not scheming them open. They're not scheming anything other than just saying, okay, this is the route you're going to run. Figure out a way to get open. That's not what an offensive coach is supposed to do. You're supposed to come up with something to help you. And it seems like the offensive coaching staff, mainly Zach Taylor, does not know how to do that.
Well, I got a good redirect I'm actually going to put to Bernsey here. So, we didn't lose the game by that many points. It's within a score. But everything I kept talking about, well, you know, we had to pass the ball late in the game. Why? Why did they have to abandon the rushing attack when the passing wasn't working? Burns, what do you think?
Been saying it for how many weeks now? Why are we not running the football?
10, 16, 20, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like I pulled a Nick again this week. I didn't bring any stats, so I don't know how many times they ran the football, but I also didn't really care because you know it's abysmal that you're not running the football. And then on the other side of it, I want to go back to my cheer. I thought about it as we kept talking about the offensive line. How about Big Zeus, Orlando Brown Jr., saying that he would much rather play in Cincinnati for the rest of his career than go back to Kansas City. So Big Zeus, appreciate the love. We love you too. Just get better. Get the rest of the team better.
Yeah. Suck less.
I mean, I'm gonna kind of jump in on that, especially when we're talking about the offensive line. Jake Browning did pretty darn good considering the circumstances. I mean, when you're not having any time, you can't even do a 3-step drop without getting just smashed, right? And then he tries a 5-step drop. Then he tries in the shotgun. Like, he has no time. And you can't blame the offensive linemen because the offensive linemen are blocking the people that they're being told that they're supposed to be blocking. They're not told that, you know, do check downs and, hey, pass off, you know, that's all coaching. And quite honestly, I mean, heck, I'll go back to our high school days. Coach Howard and Coach Turner, I think that they have a better chance of being a good offensive line coach than Frank does.
Well, but here's a question to you, Nick. I'm going to pose one to you, another redirect here. Okay, so your linemen are getting beat. They're trying to block the guys they're supposed to block, but there were some missed blocks. There were some issues. Why not max protect? Why not bring in 2 tight ends in the backfield? Because Jamar against 2 defensive backs is a better chance than Jake Browning running 15 yards backwards and just screaming his head off so he doesn't die. What do you think?
At that point, I mean, you can just double cover every receiver if you have two extra people blocking at that point. So, I mean, like, all they have to do is rush 5 and they're double covering everybody else with 1 over the top. So, I mean, that would be the problem. I mean, because then you're really just kind of banking on either Irwin or Boyd getting open. And if they're being covered, then you have nobody to throw to. So
would it be better to be off script than get murdered on script? I guess would be the question there. The more time.
I would rather have a bad plan executed violently than a good plan not executed at all. And Zach Taylor has no plan. He has no game plan going into any of it. Yeah. He doesn't execute a game plan because he doesn't have one. Right? You have to execute. I don't care if it's a bad one. You have to have everybody involved in the game plan. I know I said that wrong, Casey. Leave me alone. Yeah,
it's okay. But I mean, so Chase Brown getting 11 touches, that's not getting your best home run threat outside of if Jamar Chase was healthy. Just giving him 11 snaps, that seems like a good idea, right?
No, it's terrible. I mean, you have a running back that all he has to do is get 2 steps in the open field and he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
He's wide. He's just gone. He's so fast. The only other people that can be compared to him on the football field is Tyreek Hill. That's the only other person you can compare him to with how fast he is. I mean, and look at Tyreek Hill. He runs like a jackrabbit.
Okay, so
Chase Brown is that fast.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the other questions I kept having, so at the end of the game, they are literally bringing rushers, they're bringing blitzers, they're just getting penetration and getting through. What has worked well for Jake Browning his whole time being the starter? Screen passes. What could have killed all that pressure? A screen pass. Just take 2 steps, dump it to Chase Brown. They can't keep running if you get a 30-yard gain, or can't keep rushing if you get a 30-yard gain on a screen pass. But dropping back when they know you're going to drop back, that's a defender's dream. Like, okay, they're going to take a big drop back here, and I'm just going to pin my ears back, run through these guys, and destroy somebody.
So I pulled up the stats.
Oh, Statman's back.
Yeah.
There you go.
Joe Mixon rushed for 21 times on 65 yards. So it wasn't necessarily that we abandoned the run. It was more or less the run just wasn't working.
But the end of the game, the first half they did well with running. I'd be curious can you give us the breakdown of first half or second half? Because after that drive, when the Chiefs started scoring, that's when we abandoned the run. The whole fourth quarter, there's no reason to abandon the run. You could have easily ran the ball more, but take freaking Joe Mixon out. I love the guy. He's been a great player, great contributor. He's not going to break one for 75 yards.
Well,
isn't that just what Taylor does, though? Anytime the other team scores a touchdown, he just abandons the run and will start throwing.
So is he becoming Marvin Lewis, but instead of just doing conservative run plays, he becomes one-dimensional with pass plays?
I mean, I'm be honest with you. I think that Zach Taylor needs to just completely abandon play calling, period. He is a head coach. Be a head coach. Quit play calling.
Let the OC call plays.
Yeah, and then obviously he doesn't trust Brian Callahan to call the plays. So get somebody you trust. Find somebody you trust in the league. Talk to Blackburn, Katie Blackburn, and Mike Brown, and say, look, I trust this guy. Can we bring him in? Let him call the play so I can focus on head coach. So I can focus on doing my job as a head coach. Jesus.
Perfect segue. Quit Here we go.
Calling plays. You're terrible.
So what we're going to get into, the birds chirping, I don't care. We're sticking with it. Anyways.
Paul agrees.
Zach Taylor admitted in a press conference this week that he didn't know T. Higgins was even on the field until T. Higgins had the pass interference. That was so blatantly obvious, it was ridiculous. But that made me wonder, you're not only the head coach, but you're a play caller. We've been calling him a good game manager all year. I'd have to take that back. A good game manager knows who's in the game, what they're doing, who's running which portion of what play, even if you're not calling the play. But his whole excuse was, well, I'm busy calling plays. So we talked about it before we started. I'm just going to go straight into it. A lot of things are getting explained now. A lot of weird play calls that you don't know why they went to certain people. So we're going to go back down memory lane here because now I finally understand why something terrible happened last season. So against the Ravens in primetime, did that shovel pass to Stanley Wilson. That's because he didn't know Stanley was in the game, obviously, because no one is doing a shovel pass on a 4th and goal to Stanley Wilson. That's like the dumbest. Did he think it was Jamar Chase? Oh, Jamar's out there. Just shovel pass to him. Oh, whoops, Stanley's out there. Okay. But, I mean, as a coach, how in the heck do you not know the personnel on the field? Shouldn't that affect the play calling? Shouldn't that be a part of your decision-making? Well, I think T's out of the game. I'm probably not going to throw a deep ball to I don't know what receiver position he was in there, the X, the Y, whatever. But I probably don't want to throw a deep ball with that route because T's not. Oh, T's in. Okay, good. That just made me nervous as crap. Nick, I'll let you take your first shot at it.
I mean, as a head coach, if you're gonna take play calling responsibilities, you have to know your weapons on the field. I mean, that's abysmal. I mean, come on. If you're gonna take play calling responsibilities, you have to know your weapons on the field. You're not gonna like Casey, like what you were saying. I'm not gonna trust that Irwin is gonna run a streak route and beat the best cornerback that they have on the field. No, but Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, yeah, I'd put money that they're going to beat that. They're going to beat that cornerback unless they're holding them or there's pass interference on the play. Yeah. I'm going to trust that. Am I going to trust that Chase Brown can catch the ball out in the flat and then run 80 yards with nobody touching him because he's fast as lightning? Yeah. Am I going to put Williams out there and run the same play and expect him to do the same thing? No. No.
Why did you bring him up? Why? He is banned from mention on this podcast.
They brought him in the game. They brought him in the game and ran him when they should have been running Joe Mixon or Chase. And it's ridiculous. Yeah, I'll come to you real quick, Bernsey. I got a thought.
I was just saying that he only ran it for one play, 2 yards.
And he should never be on the field for offensive snaps.
He shouldn't have been on the field for it. It should have been either Chase, or it should have been either Chase Brown, or it should have been Jamar or Joe Mixon. It should have never been him, because he's not proven that he can do it. So that does explain a lot with him saying, "Oh, I didn't even know T was on the field." That just lets us know that you don't know who anybody is on the field at any given point in time with any of the play calling that you're having, because now we know why none of your play calls make sense. Why you're having, Jamar Chase trying to throw a pass or Tyler Boyd trying to throw a pass. Like, yeah, they're great athletes, but they're not your quarterback. Have your quarterback throw the passes. Every once in a while, throw a trick play in. Yeah, but do that deep in the third quarter or fourth quarter. Don't do that in the first and second quarter. They're expecting it. Anyways, Bernsey, take it over.
Well, we were talking about the play calling, right? And I've like I said, I've always talked about the run game, and I said Joe Mixon had 21 carries. Chase Brown only got 3.
11 total snaps.
So, and then you look at it too, is Chase had 2 catches on 2 targets for 23 yards. So, and again, I missed some of the game, not the whole thing, but on those 2, are those screenplays? That's 11.5 yards per catch. Why are we abandoning the screenplays that, like Casey was saying earlier, like those were working? And they've worked for opening up the field down the road, and now we're not doing it. It doesn't make sense. So that's just kind of my point of where we're at. Nothing making sense. So, Josh, what do you think?
Well, I can't remember who it was. Was it Wilcox or was it Hudson? That I think it was against the Steelers. Had that trick play where they were supposed to throw the ball.
Vikings, Hudson.
Vikings, yeah, Hudson, yeah. I mean, it makes sense now. He didn't know that it was going to be a tight end that was going to be getting the ball. I think he was expecting it to be Tyler Boyd, probably, because Tyler Boyd, of all of their receivers, is the only one that's actually been a quarterback at any point in his football career. So he probably was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that for Tyler Boyd. Then Hudson got the ball. He's like, oh, crap. Okay. That didn't work. But I guess it does make a lot of sense personnel-wise, because I would assume he doesn't know the personnel on the field like he says. So, I mean, Brian Callahan is probably the one that manages who goes out on the field and who's lining up and all that stuff. And then you've got Taylor just calls the plays because he's doing nothing but looking down at his little tablet there, just like, okay, yeah, we're going to do this play. And Brian Callahan saying, okay, these guys are going to go out here and do all this stuff. So I think that's where the disconnect is. They're not talking to each other. They're just, yep, I'm calling this play. Doesn't matter who's out there. And that right there tells you he is no Andy Reid. Andy Reid is a head coach who can call plays that work, but he also designs plays that work. Zach Taylor doesn't design plays that work, and he has a tendency to not call plays that work. He just has a team that is extremely talented. They have some of the best players on the field at any point in time, and he gets lucky. Obviously, without Joe Burrow, he's not anything of a play caller. Because Joe Burrow has made his offensive line look better and his head coach look better.
Yeah.
So, we're
going to pivot to other questions on the team here. So we're going to look at the defense. So there are a couple interesting things that came out in either post-game comments or press conferences. The first one, so Cam Taylor-Britt got called out by, I can't remember which press member in the locker room for getting burned. And he literally called it like it is. You could say throw under the bus, but it was like an honest fact. So they asked Lou about it afterwards. He said, that wasn't my guy. That's the safeties guy. And Lou Anarumo literally came out and said, yeah, that's a play we've called hundreds of times, that we don't understand what happened there. And Paul Dehner Jr. had a great way of saying it. Or no, actually it was Mo Egger called it that. Lou's running 400 level classes and Dax Hill's in the hundreds. Like he's in those freshman beginner classes and doesn't understand what's going on. But, I could buy that for the first few weeks of the season. But, man, how are you messing up on a play that's been called that many times? On a coverage that's called that many times? I don't know how much faith I have in Dax Hill as a safety. I'm just going to be quite honest with you. I mean, we got the whole offseason to talk about it. But do you guys have any thoughts on the defense, calling each other out a little bit, and then Lou basically being fed up?
I like seeing Mike Hilton step up as a leader. I really like seeing that. Really stepping out, really kind of taking a little bit more of a limelight than what he has in the past, talking about Orlando, and talking about how he's came in to help out the offensive line and Jake Browning, and along with Jamar Chase, talking about how they're excited that, Jake Browning, came in and was able to get things done on his side. Defensively, like you were saying, I think Zach has a good point with talking about how young they are. The problem is that they've been playing these kind of styles of defense in college. So you can't blame the inexperienced part on the kind of coverages, because the coverages, they're playing the same kind of coverages even in defense or even in college. The problem is that I don't even know what the problem is. It maybe skill wise, maybe Dax Hill just isn't that good at safety. Jordan Battle got burnt as well. He didn't cover the over top receiver on that long pass down the sideline. And he just didn't pick it up. I mean, he was the deep coverage and just didn't pick it up, and that was another woe on the night. And the problem, I think, is that there's poor communication with the play calling. I think that the team on the field is not communicating with each other, and I think it all starts and stops with the coaching. I don't know how much you can put on Lou, because Lou's had a great few years here. To be quite honest with you, I'll be happy if he stays, because I think he is a good defensive coordinator. But to be quite honest with you, I think that maybe bringing in some more experience in the defensive backfield will help out.
Yeah, I mean, they are a really young backfield. I mean, you've got Mike Hilton, Chidobe Awuzie are the only guys that have more than 2 years in the NFL. So they don't have that voice like they had with Jesse Bates and Von Bell. Those guys saw everything up front, and they knew what to tell everybody else. So I think that's I think that's the biggest thing that they need, that voice on the field, not just having Lou tell them what's going on. But I think maybe the NFL offenses have caught up to with what Lou has been doing. Because how many times have they dropped Hubbard back? They make it look like he's rushing in, but they drop him back into coverage. I feel like people are starting to see his tells and being able to figure out what he's been doing for the past few years that has been so successful. On the other hand, it could have been that Von Bell and Jesse Bates have made him look very good. Because obviously Jesse Bates, as of right now, is the best safety in the entire league. So
we let him walk.
Let him walk.
And he wanted to stay. He walked. We let him walk.
Mm-hmm.
That's so stupid.
But he originally wanted to stay. He signed a contract that's very comparable to what the Bengals offered him.
Yeah.
His pride was hurt.
I think they should have paid him in the beginning. I mean, how many? He's been the top-rated safety multiple years.
A row.
I mean, he's been about as solid as it gets. But I think that could have been the biggest thing that Lou Anarumo had going for him. Could have been those two. I mean, if you've got two awesome safeties, you know the back end of your defense is going to be solid. That's going to help the front four, front five. So go ahead, Burns.
Yeah, coverage sacks all day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was pretty much going to say the same thing. I think that when you have the experience of Jesse Bates and you have the experience of, oh my gosh, I just mind blanked. Von Bell. Yeah, sorry. Jeez, oh Pete's. It's been a day. When you lose that experience, though, you guys know that it's hard to replace. And when those guys can see a formation on offense, and make adjustments. How much of those adjustments are they the ones making? We kept giving Lou all the credit. Hey man, this guy's amazing of making all these second half adjustments in the secondary and blah 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 blah. Well, was it Lou, or was it your leaders in your back, in your secondary that were actually making you look really well and look like a genius? Because how many times have we said this year, man, this secondary is looking inconsistent? How many times have we said, Lou Anarumo, man, your adjustments are inconsistent? And here we are, what could have been, right? Even with Joe Burrow out, what could have been if we would have just had some more experience in that secondary? And we, I think we talked about it on Sunday. Talk about Logan Wilson. Logan Wilson has not performed to the caliber that Logan Wilson has performed in the last couple of years that we've seen. Okay. Love the guy to death. He's a baller. He's a great human being in the community, but he's just been inconsistent this year. And I don't know if I think it goes back to what Nick was saying about the communication. I think across the board, secondary, linebacker, defensive line, no one's talking with one another. I think the only ones that really had any type of communication were Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson, because they're the only ones that consistently perform week in and week out. Granted, we have, a couple boneheaded plays by Trey the last couple of weeks, but other than that, we've been doing really well. And it doesn't make sense on what's been happening, other than it's a lack of experience for DJ Turner. And then DJ Reader being out, maybe that interior defensive lineman is where we need to go, because, we don't know how well Reader's going to recover and what the next year is going to look like and so on. BJ Hill apparently isn't going to be the answer. So I don't know.
I mean, I think it's funny because Nick, you got something. I got different comments. You can go ahead.
I think we just need somebody, if not to give Reader a break, at least somebody on the opposite side of the ball of him that can tackle, that can run tackle. The run defense has been abysmal.
Yep.
What other teams are averaging 5-6 yards a game, or 5-6 yards a carry against us? Man, that's abysmal. Yeah. That's embarrassing. Being in the AFC North and averaging 5 to 6 yards per carry against your defense that's abysmal.
Pacheco was 7.2 on Sunday.
7.2. There you go.
Good Lord. So, yeah, well,
That's abysmal.
that would have been a good segue. I should have gone first. That would have been a perfect segue into the WhoDey history. But before we get there, a lot of people are defending Lou. Some people on this show are defending Lou. And that's justifiable. I see your angle. I see where you're coming from on that. But there's people saying that all these people that are hating on Lou have a short memory. What about 22? What about 21? And all those people saying that, I say you have an even shorter memory because you're not looking back at the first 2 years of Lou's career. First year, I'll say, okay, that was none of his players, nobody he wanted. But does anybody remember after the 2020 season what everybody was saying? Fire Lou, fire Lou. And they bring in Von Bell, they bring in DJ Reader, and suddenly the man knows how to call a defense. So is it really Lou or is it the personnel he has? Because, I mean, I get it. You can't turn dog crap into a masterpiece. I understand. But can you make some kind of adjustments to not get burned by the same exact things? That's what kills me. There was no improvement. The only time that defense did not look like a bag of crap all year, and probably on Sunday, who knows, we're going to be playing Jeff Driscoll. Good Lord, we'll get into that in a little bit. But he didn't. He looked like crap. If they didn't get turnovers, that defense sucked. That was the bottom of the league type defense. They were horrible. How do you go from almost Super Bowl champions, should have almost got back to the Super Bowl, to being bottom of the barrel when you had two people really turn over? Two people. And yeah, I get it. They were big and important, but at the same time, two people.
You're forgetting Eli Apple.
The great Eli Apple, yes.
Hey, he wasn't like the greatest of all time, but he did his job.
Is he even still playing in Miami?
He had some snaps.
He was on the field.
Anyways, let's go into happier topics. I'm just kidding. It's WhoDey history this week. I decided to depress you guys one more time this season. After the season, we'll get into more like happy WhoDey history things and make it a more upbeat segment. But since they're 0-5 in the division, they do run the risk of going 0-6. How if they lose to a Jeff Downs, Lord help our defense. They're worse than we thought they were, which could happen because we just lost to Mason Rudolph. So it could happen. But looking back at the 2002, you want to talk about a great coordinator who was crap as a head coach, Dick LeBeau. Good Lord. The man's a legend as far as being a defensive coordinator. Absolute legend. Was great for the Bengals in the 80s, good for the Steelers after that. But as a head coach, an absolute bag of crap. I mean, that was the ugliest season I ever remember watching. Go 0-6 in the North, only win 2 games. And you go from – it was the weirdest coaching. So you basically ran back the 1988 Super Bowl coordinators. You had Coslett and LeBeau, and then Coslett gets fired as the head coach, so LeBeau gets promoted to the head coach. And it's just a dumpster fire of bad quarterbacks. Not many players at all worth mentioning other than poor Corey Dillon. So thank you, Corey Dillon, for being awesome. Bring us the only highlights of that season, really. But just blows your mind. Who else wants to talk about this terrible garbage team that if the Bengals lose on Sunday, will share a legacy with as going winless in the North?
I mean, I've got the starters for that season pulled up. I mean, you got John Kitna, of course, Chad Johnson, Peter Warwick, big old Willie Anderson. You have some pretty good players. You have some.
We win this many games.
Yeah, 1-2 games.
But Chad was not Chad yet.
No, that was his first, second season, something like that. He had like just about 1,200 yards on the season. I think it said 69 catches, 1,200 yards. What I looked up. So, I mean, he wasn't really Chad Johnson yet. He wasn't dyeing his hair to any team that could shut him down. No, I mean, it was on paper a good team, but that goes to show you coaching in the NFL makes a big difference. So I'm not going to talk anymore about coaching. I just beat it to death. So I'm just going to let Burns do it.
Well, let's look at it. The 32nd ranked defense in points given up, 28th in points good, right? For the team. So yeah, that was abysmal, and it kind of looks kind of similar to what the Bengals have done for the season. Going back to Casey's point about the rushing game on defense, 4.7 rushing yards per attempt for the entire year, and averaging giving up 127.6 per game. Yeah. So
I think that was my point. I'll take credit for that.
yeah.
No, I'm going to steal it. He gave it to me. I'm taking it.
Josh, it's your points now.
Thank you. I'll take it.
So 2,041 rushing yards given up this season. That year, we only gave up 2,003. So, and we still have another game to play.
Worst in AFC North history. Rushing yards given up.
It's bad. It's bad. So, Ford, I think is his name, the running back for Ford, probably going to break 200 on Sunday if he doesn't break anything else. Not trying to put that juju out there, but you know.
Oh, is he their starter? Because he won't play. The Browns are trying to forfeit the game so that nobody gets hurt. They're just trying, like, we just want to not get anyone else hurt. If you guys could just, let us lose, we'll be fine with that.
They can't hurt or help their position in the playoffs with this.
Which is why they signed Jeff Driscoll off of Arizona's practice squad.
He was still in the NFL.
We need a warm body. When I saw that, I was like, holy crap. Yeah, it's one of those, you're still alive in the NFL career sense? Like, what?
I'm sure people said that about AJ McCarry coming back, but.
Yeah, but he literally wasn't in the NFL. Like, hey, we're going to call you back. Jeff Driscoll, why are you still in a practice squad somewhere? Wouldn't they give some, 22-year-old kid a shot other than you? But, all right, Nick, you got any happy thoughts on 2002?
No. That was abysmal. I was literally just trying to think of one positive out of that whole year. And
Zach's Googling it, so let Zach.
I'm maybe going to bring up the fact that year we started seeing that Chad Johnson could be what he became. We started seeing that. But it wasn't there just quite yet.
Oh, Josh is looking up too. Somebody's trying to figure it out. Burns,
Corey Dillon had 1,300 yards. That's not bad.
Here's the real icing on the cake for the 2002 season. 2-14 allowed them to draft Carson Palmer.
This is a silver lining. Corey Dillon was definitely a silver lining. Was there any games that were special for Corey Dillon in that season? Come on, Bengals folks. Look it up and see if there was any. I'm going to sit here and wait, play some Jeopardy music.
That's not the year he ran the league,
That's
right?
the Denver game, Casey?
I want to say it was in 2001 or 2. So let's see. Someone Google it.
I was that game against Denver, but I can't remember if it was 2002. I thought it was in 2000
because they were 0-10 or something like. Let's look it up.
I thought it was 2000.
Casey, were we at that game?
I was at that game. I can't remember if you were at that game or not.
I want to say I was at that game.
Hold on, I'm in their stuff.
Because I want to say you and I were looking at each other like.
Zach is right. It was 2000. So 1,300 yards. Corey Dillon was the only one that was worth talking about. So that just shows you how bad the lost decade is. That Corey Dillon was literally the bright spot from 97 to 03.
He has 1,600 yards if you count his catches.
And he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Sorry, Corey Dillon should be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
That's a totally different topic for the offseason. But my old age is catching up to me. There's no real – Lorenzo Neal had something in the end of that season where he was the main running back because Dillon got hurt in 02 because I remember that. Everybody's like, yay, somebody scored a touchdown. Anyways. Michael Westbrook was also on the team in 2002. He was supposed to be a big receiver pickup. And, yep, there's the crickets. Anyways, let's move on to better topics.
He's not showing up as a starters
Because he had one touchdown catch like in one of their garbage wins at the end of the year. Oh, this team's turning it around after an 0 like whatever start. Anyways, let's do a Browns and Bengals preview. So I'm going to go ahead and call it. Higgins will not play. If they're smart, Chase doesn't play because why? He's still banged up. Don't make the man go on the field. This is the time. I'm not saying I'm cheering against the Bengals because they're probably not going to gain a lot of draft capital. But this is the game where you try out all of these young players and see what they can do. So let's get a game preview and a prediction. We'll start off with Burns.
Well, if Ford's not playing, whoever their backup is going to be, he's probably going to run for 200. Kareem Hunt, going to have some sort of resurgence. I mean, that's seems to be the Browns' MO this season is just bringing guys back and having a great time. But somehow, some way, I'm still going to hold on to the hope that the Bengals can go 1-5 in the division this year and win 24-16.
24-16, I like it.
Who?
Josh? Oh,
What do you got?
I don't care.
No, I'm gonna take the positive right before Casey just throws everybody into the ground, just starts drilling us in.
I'm going last this week. So Josh?
Yeah, no, I'll take it. I'm not going to be super positive because I don't think it matters who the Browns put out there. Their defense is the best defense in the NFL by a long shot. Coaching is way above what the Bengals have. The quarterback, he's going to just beat up all of these starting Bengals corners. I don't think it really even matters. If Joe Flacco can come out there literally off his couch and light up the NFL, anybody can beat up the Bengals secondary. So I don't think the Bengals are going to come out this season with a winning record. I think they're going to lose this week, and it's going to end up being, I would say, 21-10 Cleveland, and that sucks. But I'm trying to be realistic and not trying to sugarcoat it. So.
Realism.
All right, Nick,
let's go optimistic here, okay? The Browns are not going to have any starter on the field. They would be stupid to have a starter on the field. Really, they gain and lose nothing with this game, no matter what. They're in the playoffs, right? They're going to be in that seed that they're in right now. There's literally nothing they're going to gain or lose. So why would you even play anybody you plan on starting in the playoffs? So with that said, the Bengals are still going to have most of their starting crew out there who is, except for maybe like Chase and Higgins, right? And because they're going to protect the investment. But Bengals are going to come out and make it look really, really good for them. I'm going to say 35-14 Bengals. Because I don't think the Browns are going to even put even their B team out. Because I think they're going to try to save everybody for the playoffs. I mean, let's just think back. When's the last time the Browns went to the playoffs?
It was 2 years ago. That was the season they beat the Steelers in the playoffs.
Yeah,
Baker Mayfield, yeah.
Okay, so let's just think about it. This year they have a legit chance of going further than just the first 2 games. Okay? They're not going to ruin that chance by playing a team with their A and B players, their 1s and 2s, risking them getting hurt before that chance starts in a game that means nothing. Okay? That's the reason why I'm saying 35-14 Bengals.
See, you're forgetting the Jeff Driscoll factor. It's his revenge game. He's going to pull a Jake Bryant thing. You should have never effing cut me after the game. I don't know. Jeff Driscoll, like, if we
Such
lose to
high
Jeff
hopes.
Driscoll, that's going to literally be a whole nother low for this defense. Like, Mason Rudolph is bad, but somehow he plays well against the Bengals. He has, like I said, he has a winning record against the Bengals and nobody else. That's just the team he plays good against. But Jeff freaking Driscoll with backup, I mean, you may have, I don't know if it's going to be no starters playing. I would say less than 50% of starters at least are going to won't play at all. So, yeah, backup offensive line, backup receivers, backup running back, a quarterback off somebody else's practice squad going to have less than a week in the system. If you can't stop that offense, then Lou needs to be fired. Dax Hill needs to be replaced because he just can't get it. I mean, you have to it's basic cover 2 is all you have to do the entire game because you're more talented than the other team. Just do a basic cover 2, or even just play man. Goodness gracious, if you can't cover a third or fourth receiver on a team with your best people, we have problems. Like that's just what I'm worried about. So the Bengals, yeah, they're not going to play with the best receivers that they have, but I'm actually not going to pick them to lose this week. I think the Bengals are actually going to win this game. I think it's going to be a very low-scoring contest, though. It's not going to be pretty on either side. But Myles Garrett's at least not going to be killing Jake Browning, so that's good news. But with a helmet bashing him in the head, maybe he's going to grab the one behind Burns and bash some people. I don't know. But I'm going to say 17-10. It's not going to be a blowout because a lot of those great plays, the two guys who do it, aren't going to be on the field. I honestly don't know how much Tyler Boyd's going to want to be on the field at this point either. I mean, he's a baller. He wants to play. But you're going to free agency next year. You didn't have a great season. Do you want to have another so-so game? Or unless he thinks he can light it on fire, he probably doesn't want to get too much out there anyway. And what's the point of trying him? You know what you got in Tyler Boyd. So we'll see. 17-10 is what I'm going to go with. This has been a really fun episode. So fun.
So I'm going to play conspiracy theorist on this one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. What if, because of the Burrow injury, we stopped using Boyd and Higgins as much in order to, bring everybody back so that way when Burrow is healthy, we're saving some money, keeping the longevity, keeping everybody happy, get them paid a little bit. Maybe you give them a car dealership or two. I heard that works. A la the Jazz.
Well, I mean, this is poor Joe Morgan, rest his soul. He used to have all those dealerships. Maybe we should have the Bengals buy out his family on some of those and give them to the receivers. I don't know.
Julio Jones has a couple here in town.
Yeah. Keep the greatness going. Just give them something. But I don't know. That would be great. I'd love to see run it back one more time. But T. Higgins is going to be a number one receiver on some team unless you franchise. And if you do that, that's $21 million. Like I said, we got all offseason to get into that. But I like your conspiracy theory. Maybe that's going to be a new segment we do in the offseason. Whatever the biggest conspiracy theories we can think of for the Bengals. And just see where it goes from there.
I was going to say conspiracy theories. Yeah, let's go.
Many different places.
Nick's going to break out the tinfoil for us. We
are doing – we have a strict no alien policy on this podcast.
What? Oh, my God.
We have a strict
Joe
no
Burrow's
government
talking about them,
conspiracies.
shouldn't we?
No one cares about aliens if they're real. They're just bypassing this shit, a crap show of a planet.
I just think Tom Brady's going to come back as a backup for Joe Burrow and teach him everything.
Chris Jones is coming to the Bengals next year because he talked to Joe Burrow after the game.
Yeah,
that's what happens if you talk to somebody after a game. You're coming to the Bengals.
You heard it here first. I heard Travis Kelce wants to come to Cincinnati.
he does. He does.
I think
you got to say it right. You got to say it right. He's coming back to Cincinnati because he's that UC alum, that dirty school up north.
Hey,
that's going to get Jason back here too.
Hey, I saw Joe Burrow and Travis Kelce after the game talking. Joe Burrow probably said, "Hey, come on over, man. You finally have a quarterback who can hit you in the chest with the ball."
Don't need all those Swifties in Cincinnati. Let's just be
actually, that was my conspiracy theory I was going to go into. As much as Nick says he hates Taylor Swift, He literally has a shrine in his basement to her. So I mean,
unless that's in a hidden room somewhere I don't know about.
That's the rumor we heard.
Your wife.
Oh gosh, we're so far off the reservation. It's not even funny at this point.
Sorry, that's my
I will
fault.
I will take Taylor Swift as long as we get a Travis Kelce like tight end. That's all I care about.
His name is Brock Brown.
No, we're not going there. We're not doing draft talk. The season's not even over. We have like 5 months of draft talk after the season. We got one more game to watch in misery and not really care that much. No draft talk. No mock drafts.
Hey, me and you are watching this game together, finally.
Word, because we don't care if they lose.
Exactly.
Where's the watch party at? Whose house?
My house.
All right, coming over.
Yeah, so we're 0-2. Josh and I have watched 2 games together, and they
Steelers
lost.
and Ravens.
Hey,
Last season. We haven't done this since.
all 3 of us, right? Because Bernsey, we're not going to zoom you in just for the game, dude.
Not this game, at
Not with
least.
your Wi-Fi. Not with your Wi-Fi. Good Lord.
You'll be 8 minutes behind us with your Wi-Fi.
Isn't it bad luck again since we're watching another division game? That's all we've ever watched.
But you've never
We
had
don't
it.
care if they lose. It doesn't really like. We're not going to be like, oh gosh, they lost and they're 1 game worse than they could have been. Okay, I mean, yeah. Would you like a winning season? It's the Marvin
That
Lewis
really
press
doesn't
conference.
matter.
Sure, like
Draft picks.
Yeah.
That's what matters at
But,
this point.
but even if you lose the game, you're going to go from what 16 to 14 at the best because you have a better strength of schedule or whatever compared to the teams that are behind you. So if they lose or if they lose, you're still going to be the same record. So yeah, you're not going to go that far down. And whether you pick 14th or 16th, you're rolling the dice. Like it's still a roll of the dice. It's not a 1 through 5. So we're good. See, I feel like we're just so far gone. If you're still listening at this point, thank you for listening to our incoherent rambling. We did not say a curse word on here. I stopped at a letter short, so we're good. DB is not a curse word. It's PG. We're fine. Zach's judging me, future minister, over there looking at me and judging eyes or something. But you know what? It is what it is. It's been a long, painful season with a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and we have a lot of time to digest it. Let's just go beat the Browns. That'd be nice to end the year with a win. But if they don't win, it is what it is. Any kind of closing thoughts that aren't pontificated? And we'll start with Nick.
Okay.
Huh?
WhoDey.
WhoDey. I like it. Short, sweet, to the point. Josh?
Lost the Browns. WhoDey.
Like it. Burns?
Baseball season.
It's baseball season. That's going to be the title of our next podcast. Actually, I might make it this one just for fun.
Let's go Reds.
So I'm going to do the obligatory, follow us on all of our fun social media. Look at us on YouTube, talking_Bengals, Instagram, talking_Bengals, on Twitter or X as the kids call it, at Talking Bengals, just one word. Facebook, we're at Talking Bengals. Zach's going to edit this video because I'm not going to put in all of his fun little points, but we're going to make sure they get in there somehow. And yeah, that just follow us everywhere you want to. It's going to be a great off season for us. We're going to bring in some guests. We're going to have some fun. We're going to get off these depressing topics and start looking at some positive things. We're at least going to mix in more positive aspects because we don't know what the future is. So hopefully there's some positives there. Thank you all for listening. It's been a really fun season, and we'll see you with our first off-season show next week. WhoDey.
Here. WhoDey.